Little did he know that a classroom assignment would determine his career path. Courtney is now an assistant professor at Wright State University, but getting to this point wasn't without its challenges and its disappointments. But Dr. Courtney Simons persevered. He took his own advice and did what many others wouldn't have contemplated doing in order to be accepted at a university. You're about to meet the serial science man. Yes, he has a Ph.D. in cereal science. That's C-E-R-E-A-L, food science. This is Profile. I am Faye Ellington. I don't know why he wasn't studying dashing. I don't know why I decided to do cereals. Courtney, thank you for joining me.
It's good to be here.
Cereal science.
Yes.
Why did you decide to work in that area, do research in that area?
Well, there are only two universities in the United States that offer a program in cereal science. I so happened to go to North Dakota State University to do my Bachelor's of Science degree, and was determined that I wanted a Ph.D. Now, that is what they specialized in. And so, I got to do cereal science.
What were the cereals you were looking at?
Well, I was particularly looking at pulses. So most of my colleagues, they were studying corn and wheat and so on, and barley. My focus was on pulses. It's not really cereals, but all my courses were cereal focused.
You're a food scientist, so
Yes.
we're going to get there. But let's go back to St. Elizabeth and those early years. Where did you grow up?
Grew up in a place called Cedar Spring. You have to really look hard on the map to find it. But it's on your way to a compound town. If you're familiar with the Balaclava area, Magati area, up in northern St. Elizabeth, that's where I'm from.
If I said Granny Vera, what would you say?
Granny Vera, Granny Vera. She is my first love, Granny Vera. I grew up with her. I was born at home, born at her house. And I spent my first 6 years with her. Granny Vera has a special place in my heart.
What's your fondest memory of her?
Granny Vera, I remember climbing pimento tree. Yes, that was a thing that we did. We picked pimento, we shelled the pimento, put it on zinc and
On
lay
the
it out
barbecue.
on barbecue. Yes. And then we sold that to a shop. So that's how
Did she have a buttery?
a
That's
butchery.
a buttery, it was where you put all the ground provision and the pimento and the ginger, and when you open that door and those aromas hit you. Well, then again, so Granny Vera is a person who introduced you to food.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, maybe I guess I was a food scientist back then.
I'm telling you.
Yes, it's a dehydration using solar technology, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But you went to 2 primary schools, didn't you?
I went to 2 primary schools because my aunt moved from Black River to go to Brompton, to live in Brompton. And so I started out at Black River, and then by the time, grade 5, I moved to Brompton.
Why did you come to school in Kingston?
Well, to live with my mother, and that was a big thing. And I remember passing my common entrance from Brompton, and all the kids were so happy for me. They jump up on me, man, and pat my head, shake my hand. The teachers were so happy because I passed for a town school. So that was a big.
What was your
big thing.
second choice? If you did not get into Camperdown High School, where would you be headed?
It was Monroe. Monroe is a really good school, but it was time for me to
be
live
with your mom.
To be with my mom. Yes.
So culture shock reach you when you reach at home? East Kingston?
It was a culture shock. It was different. You live in the country and you have whole space. A big space. You can run up into the yard and you can climb mango tree and raspberry tree and all this. So it was a culture shock. I remember drinking water for the first time in Kingston, and it tasted a little bit salty. It was, so I had to get used to even drinking the water in Kingston.
Were you drinking spring water back home?
It was
rainwater?
It was rainwater. But the water in Kingston tasted a little bit different. After a while, I get used to it, and it tasted fine. It was all right.
So here you are at Camperdown High School.
Yes.
How did those years go?
Those are good years. We had some really good teachers. I remember Mr. Darby. He was a really good math teacher. I had Mrs. Cook as well.
As your principal?
The principal was Winifred Smith. I know the kids used to call her Silver Fox, because she had a lot of great. But she was a principal. Mrs. Cook was teaching math at the time.
Yeah, she's a mathematician.
Yes, yes. And I remember
That's
taking
Cynthia
math
Cook.
with Cynthia Cook, yes. So I had math with her. And there were some other really good teachers. Mrs. Robinson, she taught me biology. Mr. Radcliffe, integrated science. So it was really good. Those teachers are the best.
But outside of the schoolroom, the subjects, what were you doing? Did you get involved in sports? Because Camperdown had a thing with sports too, or music. What were you doing?
I was not involved in those extracurricular activities. Usually when school was over, I went home, to do my homework. Oh, yes. She was a disciplinarian. I remember getting a bad report. My teacher wrote on my report, "Getting talkative nowadays." And I remember going home and showing it to my mother, and I got a good piece of discipline.
Yes, yes.
Yes, so she was a disciplinarian,
Something happened at Camperdown, though, that really paved the way for your career.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
It was, I believe I was in fifth form, and my teacher, it was my guidance counselor teacher, Mrs. Noble, Reverend Noble. She was teaching guidance counseling, and she sent us to the library. She said that we should go to the library, research different careers, and come back and give a presentation on what we wanted to become. So I went to the library, very excited, and I found this very thick encyclopedia, red. I even remember the color. It was a thick red encyclopedia. And I flipped through the pages and I saw the term food scientist, food technologist. These are people who develop different food products. They study the various properties of foods and design foods that are healthy and nutritious for consumers, or whatever it is that the consumer needs. They would create those products. I didn't even know that existed. You go to the supermarket and see all these products, You don't think about how they come about, but it's really the work of food scientists. So I thought that was interesting, and I decided then that I wanted to become a food scientist, although food science was not really offered in Jamaica.
No, they perhaps teach you home economics in high
yes.
school, but so that got you.
Yes, I remember going and giving that presentation and telling, the class that I wanted to become a food scientist. And I remember the teacher said, "And you so maga," not in a bad way.
No, she was teasing you.
Yeah, she was teasing me. As you can see, that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed all this time.
Did you continue through Camperdown into sixth form wanting to do this thing? Anything came to change your mind?
Yeah, so I was looking around to see, okay, where am I going to go to pursue food science? And the nearest thing to that was agriculture. Food science is agriculture, just a different branch of agriculture. So you produce and then you process. So the College of Agriculture was the nearest thing.
Which is what we call CASE now.
We call it CASE now, yes. It was COA back then, the College of Agriculture. So I decided that I was not going to go to upper six. So I went to lower six, decided that, it's a COA I wanted to go. So I didn't go upper six. I actually worked at Camperdown as a lab technician for 1 year.
Before you went off to Portland?
Before going off to Portland, yes.
How were those 2 years? Because you did the diploma, I believe it was?
It was an associate degree.
Beg your pardon, an associate degree.
Yeah, it was an associate degree.
How were those 2 years?
It was great. I remember the first time going to farm practice. At the College of Agriculture, you have to do farm practice, right? You can't become a farmer and you don't know how to wheel a machete and chop and milk cow and do all of those things. I remember the first morning, the responsibility was to go down to the bush and with machete and to chop grass, right, for the cows. And it was before sunlight. And I was so excited, man. I went down to the bush with my flashlight, with my machete to start chopping, and the other kids were laughing at me.
You woke up in a cow itch?
No, a lot of ticks, though. A lot of ticks.
We'll be right back as I continue my conversation with this really lovely gentleman, food scientist, and right from St. Elizabeth, but of course he's now in Ohio. We'll tell you more about that. And this is Courtney Simons, Dr. Courtney Simons, assistant professor. We'll be right back after this.